Hey citizens, this is Editing Execute after the fact. We've got a Freelancer Misery and Pulse with LTI and the Star System Digital Download to give away thanks to CIG. If you leave a comment below and like, subscribe, we will go into the comments and draw out a subscriber from those comments and they will win that package and we'll give it away on next week's live stream. Okay, thanks for that. See you citizens. G'day citizens, welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, mate?
I'm alive, which is the standard response that I get these days.
So after the stream this week, we had some discussions about the Eva Cardi stuff that has dropped on the test,
Yeah.
and basically, looking at the cargo and noticing that how everything is taking more time to do things, and so I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about that.
Yeah, and the time it takes to do things, I've seen people complaining that, oh no, the sky is falling. Owning a big ship is going to take, you're never going to want to use it because it's going to take so long to do X, Y, and Z. And yes, if you look at the levels that we've got at the moment, that would be true.
Yep.
But I think as we discussed on the live stream, that is tier 0. It's the first implementation. It hasn't been dialed in to give us the balance between small ships and large ships.
It's
The larger ships take more time, yeah, but
another sum of its parts problem.
Yeah, but the bonus of that, the real positive thing, is something you pointed out in the stream, and I can't say I disagree. It makes everything matter. It increases the value of everything.
Yeah, well, you also pointed out, like the example is when they wipe stuff, people get really annoyed because they've invested all that time. That just in itself proves the whole point I'm trying to make. That when you invest time, it is the most valuable resource that we have in our own lives, and investing that into something, you're going to want to protect it. And at the moment, because it's got very little value, very little time investment, people are quite happy to risk it and just gallivant across Stanton with these big loads of cargo, and
yeah, or
not
you look
worry
at
about
the
it.
the people will do the not Grim Hex, Jumptown, and they'll go to Jumptown and they'll do whatever and they'll take off their haul and get rich.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have any consequence. There's no real consequence for that. It's the same, like, in a sense, it's when Death of the Spaceman and the number of lives we get from regeneration really kick in, and we actually understand the negative aspects of it before we have to regenerate, recreate our character and have our rep reset. That's going to make the number of times we put ourselves in harm's way matter.
Yep, and
everything,
all those accumulation of choices and player choice, that all matters. You are, you've got these long-term choices, short-term choices, in the heat of the moment choices. They all matter, and it all creates a much more in-depth game, like just across the board.
Well, it's what makes the game more, dare I say, it adds to the fidelity of the game, because when things don't matter, we don't care.
Absolutely. I said the same thing myself on stream.
Yeah. So the fact that it adds to the fidelity of our characters and makes us care about the life of our characters and the things we're doing, all of those time sinks really add value to the game and make the game more enjoyable. Now, I imagine there are going to be some people who can't stand that. They just want to get in there, have their die, respawn, and come back again.
The younger we are at the moment, the less delayed gratification we have. So it almost speaks opposite to what most games are going against. You look at, like I said on stream, you look at Call of Duty, you just come in, pop a whole bunch of heads, and then reset and do it again. You are literally just cutting to the end part. You are not. There's no build up. There's no, in real life, they would have to go out, plan, strategize, travel to that location, have infill and extract and all that type of stuff. That's all gone. They're just cutting to the pinnacle, you know, the high
Yeah.
adrenaline rush area. There's no build up to that as well. And again, when you add all that, it matters. I understand why they do it in a video game perspective, but taking a game like this and putting it around, you can now all of a sudden understand why it needs to be there though, because it makes other, like, the real big clear one for me is escorting. Like, really
Yeah.
clearly, like, you and I have been hearing about escorting since day dot,
Yeah.
and we've never seen it. We
Yeah.
are what, 12 years in, and we're
And,
13 years
and
in, and we've never ever seen it.
we've never really seen that need for someone to get someone to be an escort for you.
Mm,
And if you've got a hull C and it takes you 30 minutes to load your hull C, or even your retaliator,
mm,
you've got cargo pods on your retaliator,
mm.
and you've put your 130 cargo units or whatever it is in your retaliator in by
Yep.
hand,
Yep.
and you've stacked it, and it's taken you 30 minutes. That 30 minutes that you know, unless you want to do it again, you are going to try to do what you can to protect it. Why do people like you're a classic example. You hate traveling from your hab to the space station.
Can't
You do it
stand it.
once, stay in the space station.
Yep.
Why? Because it takes time.
Yep.
You know, and so we're all like that. You know, the number of times I'll get in, and if I crash 2 or 3 times, I go, yeah, I'm done, because I don't want to have to repeat
Yep.
3 or 4 times to get where I want because of a crash.
Remember all those events we used to do, and like someone would crash and they'd just drop out for the night because they couldn't be bothered taking another half an hour to get back there just for it to crash again.
And it was the same with MMOs. Like any MMO, if you had to travel to the location and you crashed it, then you're back to the beginning. You tended not to come back because it took so long.
Yeah.
So it's no different from other games, but I think we've lost sight of the fact that it needs to be there for not Squadron 42, but for Star Citizen, for balance as well.
I think one of the really big people that are going to start to advocate this once they realize what this means is actually going to be PvP players, because it's going to, once that timing's in there and escorts are required, and then you've got the pirates on the other side because they're going to want it because it takes so much time to get, and it increases that value. They're going to be the people fighting for this because they're going to realize its worth. And I just think that's the whole reason you and I are kind of having this discussion. Is I just don't like, people are attacking it, and I don't think they realize its actual worth. And the funny thing is, you like, the people that are not talking about it, they're the people I thought that would possibly see this. I don't think they've seen it. I'd like to put this out to PvP players. Can you see the reason why you need this time? Because then the investment comes in, and you put up that time to kill, so the timing goes up, the investment goes up, the number of people you bring goes up, and it just makes all those fights, it raises the stakes. And when all the stakes go up, the adrenaline goes up, and everything starts to matter. And it's even the same things you and I have talked about with mercenaries, as an example. Call of Duty, you die, you progress a little bit, you get a score. No one gives a shit, right? Die, rinse, repeat. But in this game, if I am a mercenary, my actions at the end of that missions can have consequences for other people's games. Can we capture that planet? Can we take it over? Does it give my org those resources required that we can pull in and now expand? Or have we been pushed back and out onto a moon or further away? You see all the things, like, it's all interconnected, and that's why it makes it matter.
I think there's also an element where it comes into building the sense of it mattering, it makes it matter because as I increase the value of the cargo, that means the person is going to want to protect it more. So they are going to want to get the escorts. That's going to, as you said, it's going to raise the value of that. It's going to make the pirates' victory all the sweeter. It's going to make it better. What I think it does work against is those people who like clubbing seals. Those people who like finding the prospector who's mining in the asteroid belt by himself, or the small cargo hauler with a small load, because they like killing,
Mm.
like clubbing seals. I think that's where the negative is.
But
But also,
you get that risk versus reward though based
yeah,
on the
you do.
security area too. So if you're not prepared to take those risks and you want to go out on your own in a prospect and do that, then you do it in a high security area. But you're not going to get those rewards of a rarer resource that's worth more.
Yep.
Um,
And I think that's where it also comes in. For those who like clubbing seals, I don't think it adds that risk and reward.
mm,
I think for a pirate, if you're clubbing seals, it's low risk, so low reward. If
mm,
you're attacking someone with an escort, that's clearly indicating higher risk,
mhm.
and then the reward should also be greater, and you'd expect it to be greater because the
Yep.
person who's hauling it is
Mm.
concerned about the value of what's there, so they've actually employed
Yeah.
someone to try and escort them. So
I think
you
that
can see it. You can see it.
Yeah, I think that talks to it though. You do need to bring in those security areas because it basically means if you are not interested in that kind of PvP nature of it, you can step out of it, but you're just not going to get paid at the same rate. You
Yeah,
know,
and
you'll get by. Trust me, you'll get
yeah,
by, but you're not going to just have these massive peaks where you become a billionaire type of thing. You are going to essentially be doing the stable income, and that's it. And it's just like real life. You get those people that take massive risks, and they get to the top. By the same token, there are people that take the massive risks and they go to the bottom. But then you've
yeah.
got that stable person that's just on that slow, gradual incline all the way up, and that's their jam.
And those people who do the safe approach
Hmm,
do make their fortune and do, they advance, they go beyond where they started. They can, it just takes them more time.
that's it. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But it
Um,
takes a hell of a lot longer. Mm,
and I suppose in a sense when we push when people see us pushing the large ship motive, they're
mm,
saying we're pushing the time saving based on buying the ships
mm,
now versus being cost value and
mm,
the ability to earn those ships. So we're actually, in a sense, we're also looking at that in a time
yeah.
aspect.
I think it's really
And
important to start looking at Star Citizen as time is a currency. And I think
mm,
you can already see that already with the fact that if you even just look at how ships are purchasable and stuff, they've talked about, yes, you'll be able to grind out a ship and buy it with your time, or you can pay cash
yeah,
shorthand it because it's just two different forms of currency. But
and
you take that and apply it into the game.
yeah,
That's fundamentally what we do when we play a game. Whether we're playing it for 5 minutes or we're playing it for 5 hours, right? You're essentially converting your time into a currency.
yeah, and you can clearly see that time is a currency. Again, going back to
Mm,
what we were talking about earlier about people complaining about the reboots and resets.
yeah.
People already spend time earning fortunes in game
Yeah.
to buy all the ships. And one of the things they complain about is, oh, are we going to have a reboot? I've just
Mm,
saved all this money, or I've just bought all these ships.
yeah.
Now, I get where they're coming from, and I kind of see the need or
Mm,
the desire to keep some of that. But there's also that need where you want to say, yeah, it is a full wipe.
mm.
And I don't think full wipes are necessarily a bad thing.
But
But
as a juxtaposition of that, you hear people say, "I'm looking forward to a wipe, so I've got other things to earn again."
yeah,
So it's really interesting. You get these people for and against,
yeah,
you can kind of see the ones that sit on that delayed gratification camp, and the others that are just, I want to be, I want now, give it to me now.
yeah. Yeah, and it's true. You see that earning potential,
Mm,
and the people who don't want to go through it again. And I get that. Strike the number of times I've done beta tests, and there's a reboot and a reset, and you've got to go through the same process to get up to the same point.
mm,
I get that. It's one of the reasons I bought so many ships. I wanted to avoid the grind to buy the ships, but that was because my focus in Star Citizen is
mm.
not ships, it's on other aspects of the game, other time sinks.
Yeah. I do wonder across the board,
Mm.
obviously people that are time poor, are they going to have problems and stuff, or are they going to be attracted to other areas of the game, like the mercenary work, where it's kind of go in, you kind of do a mission and it's high risk, high reward, but they can also pay insurance to kind of not lose as much stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how they do cater to those that are time poor crowd. Does that rule them out for um, the regular missions, or do they really just turn up on the weekend for a big group effort? Like, do we all jump on a Polaris or a Javelin and go do, because a lot of people, if they have kids and stuff, 2 hours on a weekend is a long time,
Yeah.
you know?
I one of the aspects I used to look at, and I still look at, and I look forward to, is Arena Commander, because there are time, during the week I am time poor. I've got lessons or other things I've got to prepare and take care of.
Mm.
And Arena Commander, and the idea of Arena Commander, and the original idea of Arena Commander, of being able to pull your friends in and redo a mission,
Mm.
kind of gave you that instant gratification, that ability to do something and play the game with your friends
Yeah.
in a very quick, segmented capsule, rather than
Yeah.
doing the long play session, which Star Citizen is. And I think,
Yeah.
in a sense, that's the difference of, or where Star Citizen is, that balance between capsulated play and long play. And I imagine, and I expect, even in Star Citizen, there'll be points where we can, that capsulated area where you can do your city travel, go up to the space station, okay, that's a capsule. Go from station to station, that's a capsule.
Mm.
And I think that might be how time poor people look at the game.
Well, it also makes me think of the ability to jump into NPCs of your friends with agent smithing. Like,
Yeah.
it removes a lot of that traveling to have to get to them, even if they're in the same system. Like,
Yeah.
if they're half an hour away, it
Oh,
cuts a lot of that time off. Can I quickly jump in and help John do a bit of mining? Can I, just do that and then jump out of the NPC and get back and cook dinner with a wife? Like how does that work?
yeah.
Right. And
And,
I start to think that that's probably why they've implemented some of those things for the future.
and I think that's why they talked about that early on. The
Yeah.
idea was to enable it, make it easy for you to join me or me to join you when we're at opposite ends of the in different systems.
Mm.
We already know how, if we want to do something in game together, you'll say, hey, look, I'm at Microtech. Make sure you're at Microtech.
Yeah.
And so people will actually arrange that beforehand. Why? Because if I'm at Stanton, or sorry, if I'm at Lawville on the planet, and you're at Microtech, that can be a 10, 15-minute
Well,
time before we link up.
it does bring up that question then, doesn't it? Just how tied to different systems are we going to be? Are we going to be, like, it shows you the different professions, right? If you're a hull C driver, you are, that's your system. I live in this system and I go around. If you are like a D or an E, you're like, oh, I don't give a crap about where I live. I'm just going across delivering shit. That's my jam is just traveling.
Yeah. And I think we'll have that aspect as well. And I think we'll have that ability to encapsulate the points between space station or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, it really does show that time matters, and the changes that are coming in with the cargo refactor and the loading of cargo is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It differentiates small ships and large ships. Small ships, you can load them and move them a lot quicker. Large ships will take a little longer.
Yep.
So it's also great in that aspect.
I think we do also have to quickly kind of talk about how this is kind of like a tier 0 implementation, and clearly there are problems with it they're going to fix that are really obvious. Like, at the moment, it doesn't matter the size of the cargo containers that you're transferring. They are all done by the same SCU amount. So a 32 SCU container is the same as 32 single 1 SCU containers, right? And realistically, like in the real world, that would not work that way. The 32 would obviously be quicker because you can move it in one go. So they've got to go in through and code that stuff. But again, as you and I talk about, you've got to build this stuff up. Otherwise, if you try to do it all in one go, it creates more bugs and errors and stuff like that. So it's just better to build it slowly, piece on piece on piece. Like that jigsaw analogy I gave on stream. And I'll real quickly, like, it's like if I feed Algared the correct piece to connect to the next piece, it's easier for him to build. But if I just give him all 500 pieces, he's got to sit there and work it out himself. It's exactly the same thing for the programmers. If you're just doing it slowly, piece after piece, you don't make mistakes. So,
or you don't make as many mistakes. But yeah,
yeah, you get yeah.
but I think that's right. I think the smaller you take the steps, the better
Yeah.
you advance in terms of where you're going.
Yeah, incremental. Yeah.
Those incremental jumps, and initially, when we're looking at the cargo refactor, yes, everything's going to take the same time. And as you said,
Mm.
a 32 SU container, if I'm loading it manually, it takes me half the time. It takes me 32 times less than loading each 32 container.
Yeah.
Each
And it might
single-
take a little longer because you're doing it with a drone instead of a tractor beam or a forklift or whatever. But again, you can work that stuff out based on tech level as well. We know they're doing things, for example, like personalities for AI. Why wouldn't they do things with the timers as well when it comes to loading and offloading? Like, having variables and randomizations. I'm sure they'll put all that in eventually. But again, if you think about it, isn't that right at the end when everything's working? They make it work and then you stuff with it.
And then you start tweaking the time that different things take. And I think when you read or you hear people having the sky is falling effect of, oh no, it's going to take me forever. Oh no, I can't function. Oh no, this big ship is useless to me. Yes, at present it is. Yes, at present it does take significantly longer, but down the track, those things are going to be mitigated, and ships that just take 32 SCU containers, I imagine, will be a lot quicker to load than a ship that's taking 32 individual 1 unit SU containers. And that's where the whole sea.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
that's where
the whole series is literally designed around that concept, so they can load it quicker and take more and more cargo.
Or the raft zone, so.
Well, when it's a ship that's designed to load, the raft is designed as a sky crane to load the whole series. It tells you that's all been designed around speed to speed it up. Yeah.
And I think that's the key. We've got to look beyond where we are to actually really see the value that these time sinks are going to have on the game.
Comes right back to what I said at the start. It's a sum of its parts problem. You can't just look at one little thing in its own area. You have to look, and it is hard to look at all the encapsulating pieces and put them all together. And it does make it more difficult. But by the same time, it gives it incredibly much more depth, emergent gameplay, player choice, all those buzzwords that we talk about over the years, Algared. You can see how it has effect.
And you can understand why people have that negative view, because all of a sudden what we've been doing, we can't do now. I can't just in 5 seconds load up my whole sea and then fly it to a station and then unload it and do it, and rinse and repeat and do it 15 times in an evening.
Well,
I now mainly be able to do it once or twice.
Well, it's the same thing with the engineering a couple of months back where people were panicking. You don't want to lose that cargo. You've got to up that time to kill, so you've got a chance to actually damn save it. It's really logical. Again, you have to start looking, and it is really hard to do this. We did talk about this on stream, to go back and look at all the stuff they've ever talked about as a new player coming in. Even if you only came in 5 years ago, there's still 5 to 7 years before that you've got to catch up on, and they don't. It's not like this is all laid out and it's just like a 1,000-page document that you read. It is literally tiny little specks and nuggets through every ISC around the verse, text documents, Twitter posts, across the board. And the stuff that me and Algared have missed, right? The stuff that there are so many people that have missed. I would challenge anyone to come back at me and say they know everything about this game, because it has now got that complicated. I remember way back in the early days, Algared, I remember I was saying to Sandy, I said, someone needs to start to build something that like is a compendium. And I think there's some people that are attempting to do that, but I just think it's so, there's too much now. I don't think it'd taken an entire community to kind of come together and pull it all together to summarize it right down.
Yeah, you look at the law, and you could see that we've got a bit of lag there. But you look at the law, and even the law, when they're putting things in and updating Galactopedia to get things, or have to go back and do stuff, and that's the law team who wrote the law for getting things or having to go back and revise it because they've stuffed it up. So if the people who are designing and writing and doing that are having the same problem, we're all in the same boat. So
well, they're having trouble tracking their own law essentially
Yeah.
is what you've just said there. And they've got a team that are full-time working at this. So there's just too much now.
Yeah.
And it is going to require people like us fact-checking their law and stuff like that. And hopefully they do some retcons, and I reckon they will. But it's the same thing with the game across the board. It is really hard for us that have been here for a long time. I can only imagine what it's like for newer content creators.
Oh,
And it's not to have a dig at them and say they're getting stuff wrong. Yes, they are, but I'm trying to validate the reason why they're getting, you know,
oh, look,
yeah,
the classic was again expat right joining us the other week,
mm,
and we're talking about stuff, and she said, "Oh, what about this?" And we said, "Oh, blah, blah." She said, "What?"
yeah,
You know, and she was going back trying to find through the histories and trying to find
mm,
out everything because she'd realised, man, there's so much I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
And she's been here
you
for
know,
like 3 years. That's not exactly a new person, you know.
no, and she's not a new person because she's been here that long, and yet
Mm,
compared to what we've gone through, she's
mm,
new.
yeah,
And I know, I didn't join straight off the bat.
mm,
I was I'm not, an OB,
mm,
uh, but I was certainly in an advantage when I joined in 2014 because there wasn't as much
mm.
backlog to catch up on. So it was
Yeah.
possible to do. These days, no, I don't think.
It doesn't make us
Well,
experts. It just
no,
means that we had the value of time, and,
yeah,
and and I think the older the back, and I don't mean this in age older. I mean the longer you've backed, you can just tell they seem to be more at ease with the game because they know more about it because they've just been tracking it. But by the same token, I remember I've seen people that came in at the beginning, left, and they've come back in, and they are more like a newer backer. So
yeah,
it really comes down to how much you've
it,
educated yourself and the time, ironically, that you've put in
yeah.
to learn.
It's that time that people put in to
Mm,
learn that actually informs and helps them understand where things are going and what's going to happen. But
but it's not
as
easy.
if someone who joined early on and then
Mm,
disappeared and comes back every 6 or 12 months to check it out,
yeah,
they don't necessarily understand the
mm,
history or the background or
yeah.
where things are going. So yeah.
And then
Anyway,
to make that even worse, you've got contradictory terms because of different times and stuff like that as
yeah,
well. So it does get confusing.
it does. But
Yeah.
on that point, I suppose the key point to make in this video is
Mm,
that time matters.
yeah.
It's going to enhance the gameplay.
Yeah.
The sky is not falling,
Mm,
and it's a good thing.
yeah. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. Short and sweet. All right. Is there anything you would like to hear from people in the comments, Algared, specifically around time? I guess. I think
Yeah,
from
what are your views on how time is being managed,
mm,
or how our time sinks are being given
mm,
added value?
yeah,
Does this make large ships incompatible for you?
yeah,
What size ship is the best ship for you,
yeah.
and why?
I think that will be a factor going forward. Absolutely. Like how much time do you have to invest in the game? And I think obviously the more hardcore group is going to be those bigger ships and the better value, as we still talk about. But those people that are time poor, maybe that is their jam, just the little single player ships. So it'll
Mm.
be interesting. I kind of want to put the question out there for about, I forgot what I was going to say. I've lost it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Just let us know if you think we're on the point here. Oh, I remember now. Gratification. So, do you think because of the time sink that more older people are going to be into this game because it takes longer to do things? Where the younger generation, they're more after that instant gratification. So, is this game kind of breaking the norm, so to speak? Because everything's really about snap, 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 snap gratification now. Making a game that takes longer, do you think that's going to really detract from its popularity? Or is it going to be like something like when the Soul Likes came along and they totally changed how things were because games were hard again? I wonder how that's going to pan out. So I'd like to put that off to you guys in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on that because I think that is really going to be either a make or break on this game. All right, then. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you everyone that went extra mile at the end of the video on Patreon. You guys definitely got me to Citizen Gun this year. So yeah, thanks. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.